Hey, what's up, everybody? Just recapping a day on the lake with Mark Dunbar yesterday. We went down to Lake of the Ozarks there on December 4th and had a great day on the water. Mark's a good guy to fish with. Those of you that know him know he'd do anything to help a friend out, and we had a great day. Caught some crappie, caught a big walleye, and caught several bass as well. So we'll kind of break down what worked and kind of three takeaways from the day yesterday. And number one, first takeaway is the jerkbait bite is finally starting to heat up. We didn't catch a lot of bigs on it by any means, but we caught several fish kind of along the steeper banks, as you'd expect them to be in this kind of wintertime transition period there. And so lots of those 13 to 14 inchers, a couple keeper spots, maybe one or two that was right at the keeper line, but at least the bite is starting to pick up on the jerkbait, and that's always a fun one. And one of the things I'm working on is trying to fine-tune my jerkbait setup. That's the beauty about being retired and able to practice like this, is I can kind of experiment with different rods and reel combinations, line sizes, rod length, and action to kind of find what works best to make me the most efficient. And so one of the things that I've kind of tested out, and I tried this earlier in the week, was using a left-handed reel for jerkbait fish. If y'all watch Fish 30, Dave McCormick, he fishes a lot of left-handed reels. I'm pretty sure he's right-handed, but he's really good on those left-handed reels. You don't have to keep switching the rod back and forth in and out of your hands when you're fishing. I tried that with the jerkbait, and I just didn't like it. I like it for a spinning rod underneath. For whatever reason, I can get a good hook set. It seems to balance itself, but I tried that for the bait casting, and it just doesn't work for me. I can't seem to get a good hook set, especially pulling the rod this way. I don't feel like I get enough power on a hook set on that, and after a while, I was like, this is not comfortable. So I went back to the old traditional right-handed reel, and I experimented went back to a 7-foot jerkbait rod. I fished with Mark yesterday in his boat, and so I only brought 4 rods and a small amount of tackle just so I didn't take up a bunch of room there. And so I had my finesse jig rod, which is a 7-foot St. Croix rod. It's a medium action, got a little give to it, but not too much, still has some backbone, and I really, really like that for jerkbaits. It had 12-pound line on it because it was for finesse jigs, which is probably just a little bit heavy for jerkbaits, but I threw a couple of mega bass jerkbaits on it and really had pretty good. I could still cast accurate. I could cast a long distance with that 7-footer compared to a 6.6. I wasn't banging it against the boat when I was trying to fish it either, so it seemed to work pretty good for me. I think I'll settle on that 10-pound fluorocarbon for line. I'm curious as to what you all use for your jerkbait setups. In the past, I'd always went with a 6.6 with anywhere from 8 to 12-pound line, depending on what the setup is. And I will throw one on a spinning rod too if I want to get it really deep. If I want to use 8-pound line, a deeper bill, and make longer casts, especially in that heavy wind, I seem to do well with that spinning rod. I use that on Table Rock quite a bit and had some good luck with it too. So curious as to what your all's jerkbait setup is, but I'm kind of fine-tuning my approach there. But anyway, caught lots of fish on the jerkbait yesterday, so it's starting to pick up a little bit. Guys that know what they're doing can probably catch some bigger ones. We fished them over some brush and stuff, and I'd let it sink or let it slow fall real slow. That didn't seem to work where we were at, but I know that's a good pattern there on the lake, where you fish those things over the top of the piles and maybe let them slink real slow until they come up and get it. That's kind of the first takeaway, is that jerkbait bite's heating up, and that's always a good thing this time of year. Second thing is we brought some crappie poles along, and the crappie bite is definitely picking up, and I mean some good ones. We didn't catch those little 9.5, 10-inch paper thin crappie that Lake Ozarks is kind of known for. We caught those big 12, 13 inchers with the big thick shoulders on them there. He found a couple spots there where they were stacked up, and they seem to school up by size to some extent. But we had a great time doing that. I mean, there was some meat on those fish, and so he's real good at that dock skipping technique. And that's something that I'd heard the guys doing before and trying to learn a little bit about myself, but I certainly am not near as good at it as what he is, being able to shoot that little crappie jig underneath the docks through the gaps there on the dock foam, and he's really good at that. And that's a lot of times where the fish are stacked up, is underneath the part of the dock where you can't get to them. But he showed me how to do that a little bit, and that was always a fun exercise in futility, bouncing it off the docks and trying not to make a mess out of the things. But what he uses and what works good for him is that 4-pound line and a 6'6" or a 7-foot kind of a medium light crappie rod. It's got to have some backbone there with a soft tip to where it will slingshot that bait and skip it on top of the water. Those of you that know what you're doing on that can probably tell better than I can what works best, but that's something I'll probably look into in the future, is looking at a couple crappie rods to kind of do that, because we had a good time doing that. When the bass fishing got slow, we picked up the crappie rods and caught a few fish doing that, and kind of finished the evening catching some real nice, just 12, 13-inch slabs there. So that was a lot of fun. Great way to end the day. And the final takeaway, the third takeaway for the day is we're still struggling to find that midday bite. You know, this time of year in the morning, you know, when there's low light, it seemed like we got bit pretty regularly on the jerk baits. You had a couple of fish on the jig. Later in the day, when the sun came up, we went down deeper and tried the A-rig and the jigs kind of out, fishing structure, fishing brush and rock piles, kind of in the middle of the lake. That's what Mark's style is. He's really, really good at his electronics and fishing kind of away from the bank, that structure fishing out kind of the middle of the pockets, the middle of the coves, middle of the creeks, away from the docks, away from the bank. But we didn't catch much doing that still. And we fished that a couple times. And there's times where he's put a 20-pound bag in the boat doing that. And there's times where we haven't caught crabs. So still trying to identify some patterns during midday to focus on. For a guy like me who's terrible at that sort of thing, I'll probably focus on just catching some spots around the docks, or maybe, you know, pitching a jig around the docks in the shade midday, trying to get that deeper bite. In the evening, when the shadows came up again, about 2 o'clock or so, when that, you know, that sun's kind of low this time of year and the shadows are on the banks, we can go back to catching a few fish shallower with the jerk baits and the jigs and that sort of thing. But boy, we're still not finding much on the midday bite, but I know other people are. I saw yesterday it took 22 pounds to win that qualifying event for that World Blast Classic or whatever the heck it is. That was out of the Niagara Ramp, Larry Gale Access yesterday. And that guy, I can't think of his name now. It'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, he had 22 pounds. So the guys that know what they're doing are catching the big bags this time of year, and those guys are awesome. I need to kind of learn from them as well. And Mark's a great one to learn from as well, because he's brought in 20-pound bags. Overall, it was a great day. Looking forward to still doing some preparing for the next Fitz Fishing tournament coming up on the 14th. I'm kind of narrowing down what I think I want to do in terms of finding a pattern for that tournament coming up. I've only got a couple more days to practice for that one, but I'm going to get out hopefully tomorrow and Saturday and do some experimenting and try and find some new areas as well. So, hey everybody, hope you enjoyed the format. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.